how good was Steve Kerr actually?
Steve Kerr come on. Goes
back on top. Steve Kerr for three. Open for three. He's got it.
Winning 9 NBA championships, making the 1997 NBA championship winning three-pointer, was Steve Kerr one of the most prolific winners in NBA history? How good was he actually? How integral was he to the Bulls dynasty? What is his story? Stay tuned because today's video will rock you out of your chairs. Damn. Steve was born in Beirut, Lebanon in 1965 and spent most of his early childhood moving back and forth from the US to the Middle East, while spending 2 years in Egypt and most of his vacations in Europe. Goodness me, bro could have written a book on traveling. However, there was a reason behind this. Steve's father, Malcolm H. Kerr, was an academic specializing in Middle Eastern studies and served as the president of the American University of Beirut. So it was due to him that the family was always on the move. But during all this time, if there was anything constant in Steve's life, it was his undying love for baseball and basketball. My man was obsessed with it. While he and his family were constantly hitting the road, he was shedding friends as quickly as grains of sand. Amidst this chaos, it was just him, the basketball, and the hoop. But before we continue, make sure to dunk on that subscribe button. From dusk till dawn, Steve was pouring his heart into practice until his arms gave up. And it was this relentless dedication that truly paid off in a big, big way. With all his skills honed to perfection, he became a force to be reckoned with, earning himself a scholarship to the University of Arizona under the one and only legendary coach, Lute Olson. Steve's life was going great. Everything was well in order until one day, he decided to go meet his family in Beirut. While he was on his way back, he faced one of the biggest scares of his life. He was waiting to board on his plane in the terminal when there was a series of bomb blasts that not only destroyed the runway, but also forced the evacuation of the airport. Somehow, Steve survived this and got back to the United States, but his father was still in Beirut, working on his dream job. Then, at 3 a.m. on January 18th, 1984, 19-year-old Steve received a phone call that changed his life forever. It was the news of his father's assassination in Lebanon. After this tragedy, Steve was never the same. He was devastated, but he still didn't fly to Beirut for services after his father's death. Instead, he attended practice and played against Arizona State. He hit 5 of 7 shots in a 71-49 win. It was the best game of his freshman season. This was what Steve said later on. Playing basketball took my thoughts away from what was going on. It helped me out. It gave me something to fall back into. It gave me some little time to relax. After this, the Wildcats went on to win 8 of their final 14 games to finish 11-17. Steve was broken by the loss, but despite this, he didn't lose his focus, and in 1986, he was selected into the US national team for the FIBA World Cup, and boy, didn't disappoint. He won gold! But then came another obstacle. While he was doing great in basketball, he suffered from a career-threatening injury that tore his ACL. Anyhow, man was lucky enough and recovered pretty fast. Then, 2 years later in 1988, when he was on the court for pregame warm-ups at arch-rival Arizona State University, he was taunted by Sun Devils fans with chants that included PLO and "Where's your father?" This was extremely insensitive, and Steve didn't let it slide. He was teary and he vented it out on the court as he scored 20 points in the first half, making all 6 of his 3-point attempts. At the end of his college career, he had set an NCAA single-season record for 3-point percentage, 57.3%, 114 of 199. Jeez, bro was pulling a Steph Curry way before Steph Curry. NBA. Steve was drafted with the 20th pick in the second round by the Phoenix Suns in the 1988 NBA draft. Unfortunately, for most of his rookie season, he was glued to the bench, and he only scored 54 points. Damn. But see, Steve was a fighter. He had this rebellion inside him. And when he got traded to the Cleveland Cavaliers in exchange for a 1993 second-round pick, he made the fullest use of this opportunity. The Cavs were a very strong team, led by star point guard Mark Price. Steve was a backup guard on that team, and his role was to make jump shots, which he did better than almost every player in the league. In fact, he made 51% of his threes and shot 47% from deep, setting the franchise record. More importantly, he was also part of the squad that blew out the Miami Heat by a record margin in 1991, winning 148-80. This was the rising of a future star, and fortunately, it was with the Cavs that Steve witnessed the legend Michael Jordan as the Bulls would take down the Cavs on several occasions in the playoffs. After rocking it out for 3.5 seasons with the Cavs, Steve took a spin with the Orlando Magic, sharing the court with rookie sensation Shaq. But then came the jackpot moment, joining the iconic Chicago Bulls squad for a sweet but humble paycheck of around $150,000 per season. Yet, money took a back seat as Steve found himself living the dream, suiting up for one of the most legendary teams in NBA history, while sharing the court with Michael Jordan and being coached by the maestro Phil Jackson. Apart from the majestic three-peat, in the next 5 years, Steve played 378 games for the Bulls and made several records. This included some moments like the time Michael Jordan punched him in the face during practice. Damn! But this was followed by the 1995-96 season for the Bulls, where they accomplished a 72-10 regular season record and a 15-3 postseason record. During this period, Steve averaged 8.5 points and 2.3 assists per game in 22 minutes. Although these numbers seem quite ordinary, the impact they had was profound. But one of the most memorable moments of Steve's career came in the 1997 championship finals as he produced a clutch three-pointer, leading the Bulls to their 5th NBA championship. This was peak Steve Kerr. During his tenure with the Bulls, he averaged 8.2 points per game on 50.7% shooting. Damn. In 1998, after completing their second three-peat, the Bulls split up, and in that season, Steve averaged 63% on true shooting percentage, 5% more than Jordan. He was so low-key, yet he was so great when it came to offense. After bidding farewell to the Bulls, Steve pulled off one of the slickest moves of his career by joining the star-studded San Antonio Spurs crew, featuring the fresh-faced Tim Duncan, the ever-energetic Greg Popovich, and the seasoned veteran David Robinson at 34. It was the birth of the Duncan-Popovich Spurs dynasty, and boy did they dominate. The 1999-2000 season belonged to them, and they effortlessly clinched the championship, just as everyone expected. With this, Steve became the first player since the 1960 Celtics to win 4 rings in a row. Goodness me. And it didn't end there. After the next 2 seasons, he moved to the Jailblazers where he didn't do much. And right when he was considering retirement, he had a chat with Greg Popovich and moved back to the Spurs and won another championship. Speak about luck. Steve finally hung up his shoes after the 2003 season, and at the time of his retirement, he left as the NBA's all-time single-season leader in three-point percentage, 52.4%, 1994 to 1995. He also finished his career with the best three-point shooting percentage of all time, 45.4%. In 11 of his 16 career years, the former Arizona Wildcat shot over 40% from three-point range. He was one of the most consistent performers in the sport. Although he did not make any All-Star teams, but he made his name in the NBA as a shooter. He performed that duty better than anyone in the league at the time of his retirement. It's important to note that Steve Kerr doesn't have the elite stats that most of the Hall of Famers would have. After all, he only averaged 6 points per game in his entire career, but the experience that he gained during that time was so valuable that eventually he went on to win 4 more championships with the Golden State Warriors, taking his total tally to 9. Damn. Hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Dunk on that subscribe button already. Peace.